Welcome to Btekt, this is David. This video is sponsored by Direct Mobiles. Check out their deals at directmobiles.co.uk. The Doogee S95 PRO is a handset with a 3500 mAh battery and hi-fi speakers. When I say 3500 mAh, I don't mean the internal battery. This device comes with an external battery that magnetically clips onto the back to give you an extra 3500 mAh worth of juice. And when I say stereo hi-fi speakers, I don't mean the internal speakers, although it does have pretty good stereo speakers that fire out the back. No, I mean it has external speakers which slap onto the back just like the battery does. You do get quite a lot for your money here, as well as those very nice extras. The Doogee S95 PRO comes with a 48 megapixel rear camera system, which takes very good pictures, which I will get to in just a bit. If you've never heard of Doogee before, well, they produce rugged smartphones. The last one I reviewed was the S90, which overall was quite a good phone with some really interesting features, although for me it was let down a little bit by only being able to run Android 8. That phone also comes with extra clip-ons, although it does seem to be more orientated to people who live in quite remote areas, giving you an attachable two-way radio, a 5000 mAh battery pack and night vision camera. This time around, it would seem that the extras would be more suited to people who live in more urban areas, and really these accessories are far more useful than what we got before. The phone does come fitted with a screen protector, although in here you'll find a spare. It's all a very nice little package, especially when you consider the price of £420. So I think this phone is actually great value for money. Let me give you a complete specs rundown of it, which should hopefully give you a better appreciation as to why. With a 6.3-inch IPS LCD panel, 1080 by 2160 resolution inside these bumpers, protected by two layers of Gorilla Glass 5, which are placed on top of the aluminium frame with the screen underneath. A Btekt Helio P90 processor is at the heart of this device, and it comes with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of onboard storage. Plus we get a massive internal 5150 mAh battery. So that's a total of 8650 mAh of battery capacity if you use the external power bank. The phone's battery can charge at 24 watts over USB Type-C, and wireless charging also features here at a speed of 10 watts. It's IP68 and IP69K rated against water and dust, allowing the S95 PRO to stay submerged under 3 meters of water for 4 hours. What is also impressive about this phone is that despite it being relatively thin at 13.8mm, it still complies to the 8NG military standard, which usually requires something a bit thicker. My first thoughts when I picked it up was that it feels much lighter than the S90, way lighter actually. It still is fairly heavy compared to regular phones, but not really too much. It just feels like you're holding something like an S10 but with a really thick case on it. All of the ports are hidden beneath these rubber grommets to keep water and dust out, and unusually we have 2 SIM card trays, one on either side. Also a side mounted fingerprint scanner that works pretty well, although I found it really hard for it to actually recognise my fingerprint in the first place. It is slightly recessed, and maybe it's just my fingers, but it just seemed to have trouble registering. But once it did register, it seems to work pretty much every time. To be honest, I think the recess is actually quite a good thing because it stops you from accidentally activating the fingerprint scanner. On the left side, there's an action button that can be mapped to either activate a particular app by double pressing, long pressing, or triple pressing. Or if you want to, you can activate functions such as the flashlight, which is what I have it mapped to. Software-wise, it runs Android 9. Which, although is not the very latest from Google, is still a nice piece of software, and this version that Doogee have produced is very close to the stock Android with just a few of their own apps thrown in, such as the tool bag. This is just a collection of very simple but very useful apps. You'll find things here like the compass or picture hanging, which is basically just a spirit level. Gradienter measures the angle of an incline. Height measure is self-explanatory and requires you to input your height first and then point your phone at an object you wish to measure. Magnifier just basically opens the camera app and allows you to zoom in. Protractor is actually quite useful, and I've even used it to measure angles when creating my 3D models. Plumb bob is basically just another variant of the level, and barometer measures air pressure and altitude. There's a small selection of gesture navigations to choose from. Just go to the settings and scroll down to navigation bar. As well as the regular navigation keys at the bottom of the screen, there's also the choice of 3 different styles of gesture, which are similar to the Samsung style. You can either have back on both sides and then swipe up from the middle to go home, or you can have back from either the left or the right side with swiping up from the middle again to go home, and swipe up and hold to get your recent. They have also added functions like gesture wake up. If you turn this on, it will give you shortcuts to some functions within the phone, such as swiping up to get your messages, or you could swipe down to open your video player. All of these functions can be customized to your taste, and it's actually quite useful. Although you will have to enter your PIN or your fingerprint ID if you have the screen locked, or probably the quicker way is to use the face unlock, but when you do so, it will take you straight to your app. If you're a builder or a handyman, then this has got to be your dream phone. As well as all of those apps coming in very useful, this is a phone that you really don't have to worry about if you drop it, or if it takes a knock, or if it gets completely covered in dust. My brother is a builder and you should see the state of his phone, so something like this really does appeal to someone like him. Even to my brother though, the most appealing feature about this device isn't its toughness or its DIY type tool bag. It's the high fidelity removable speakers that attach to the back of this phone, and I have to say it really does appeal to me too. As I said quite a few times before in my videos, I do listen to my phone quite a lot, so for me it's got to have good speakers. I tend to gravitate towards phones that do. The S95 Pro does have very good speakers even without the external pack attached, although they are rear firing, which is a little bit strange as the sound is always pushed away from you. Nevertheless, they sound very good, but with just a snap you instantly get a much better sound from the external speakers, albeit at the expense of hiding the camera away. The speakers themselves have their own 2200 mAh battery, which is good enough for about 4 hours of continuous playback. There's also a little kickstand at the back to stand up your phone very nicely. As I mentioned earlier, I've been pleasantly surprised with the camera system on the Doogee S95 Pro. It uses a 48 megapixel Sony IMX586 main sensor with a wide angle lens, 8 megapixel sensor with an ultra wide angle lens, as well as a 2 megapixel depth sensor for portraits. There is a 2x crop with the main lens, although it's not an optical zoom. There's also an AI camera function, although once you activate the AI, you cannot use the ultra wide angle lens, weirdly, and you won't be able to shoot at 48 megapixels. Activating it will combine 4 pixels down to 1 to give you a 12 megapixel shot. I found that using the ultra wide angle lens casts a completely different color across the image. It's a much cooler look than what you get from the wide angle lens, and I haven't found a way to correct for the distortion. I assumed that the distortion would be corrected if you was to switch the AI on, but no, the AI simply does not support the ultra wide angle camera. I'm finding that in good conditions, the Doogee S95 Pro takes really good pictures. The AI is capable of recognizing 15 different types of scenes, and when it gets it right, it does do a very good job. Although I do feel like it might need some refining maybe. I am hoping that it is something that Doogee will improve over time through software updates, but I found that in some conditions, especially with the night mode, it can be a little bit ambitious with its adjustments. But for the most part, I quite like the images from the main lens. It would have been nice if the ultra wide angle didn't have such a heavy blue cast when compared to the main though. Video is pretty standard stuff really. It does do 4K at 30 frames per second, although I found the video to be quite choppy at that resolution sometimes. I can't decide whether there is stabilization or not. It does seem like it's trying, although nothing is particularly smooth. But then I don't think that this phone is aimed at photography enthusiasts. There's plenty of choice if you are that way inclined, but if you want something that's tough with a long battery life, good sound, then you really can't go wrong here. Okay, the software isn't amazing, but it is relatively lightweight. There's no fancy animations slowing it down, and navigation is extremely snappy. 2 proper SIM card trays is great. There's expandable storage as well for another 128 gigs. For me, this is perhaps the best rugged phone on the market at the moment, but I think that the attachments will make it appeal to a much wider range of people. I really like this phone. It's not perfect and it definitely has its flaws, but the battery life and the accessories make it a really good buy. I really hope that Doogee give this device Android 10. I think they will have one hell of a device if they could get Android 10 in here. I know it's probably not as easy as just saying so, but then again, even with Android 9, I'm really enjoying using this device. I'll leave the website link down in the video description below. But of course, another great place to find this phone is on the Direct Mobile's website. It's a place where you can compare all deals, tariffs and offers from all the networks all in one place. Plus they have over 24 years of award-winning customer service. So you really are in great hands. The link is in the video description below, or search directmobiles.co.uk. Also in the video description is a link to the Btekt Amazon shop, a place where we upload all of our favourite tech. Everything there is recommended by us. It's definitely worth checking out. And that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, leave me a like and a comment, and subscribe for more Btekt. Follow me on social media. My name's David, this is Btekt.